Hey, Cody here with Part Equine Health. I want to talk a little bit about hydration and dehydration. Horses require between 4 and 20 gallons of water per day. There's going to be situations where they require less water, such as when temperatures are extremely cold or with certain illnesses that have presented. And there's going to be situations where they require more, specifically when the temperature outside is higher or the heat index is high, mixed with humidity. When exertion levels go up, when salt intake has increased, when hay ingestion has increased, or you're feeding more forage or they're foraging more, and with some specific illnesses, especially those that are accompanied by a fever or inflammation as a side effect or a symptom. So how do we monitor that our horses are drinking enough water? If they're locked in a pen and drinking out of buckets, we can visually check the buckets every day to make sure that they're actually going down and we're having to refill. Now, if our horses are out at pasture and grazing and drinking out of freshwater sources, we're going to have to just see them drinking to know they're getting some. If that's not an option, we can be looking for symptoms of dehydration, such as fatigue or lethargy, depression, thick mucousy saliva, dry mouth, dry skin, lack of coordination. You'll see that mostly at the walk, almost looks like they're sedated. Those are all signs of dehydration in the early stages and advanced stages. So how are we checking our horse's hydration levels? The very first way I like to check is just a visual scan of their coat. I like to look at the neck primarily or the hip and rump. I am looking for any direct or immediate changes to their coat. Does my horse normally have shiny, oily skin and now it's dry and dull? Is it normally not flaky and now it's dry and flaky, almost dandruffy? That would be a sign of early stages of dehydration. I know in wintertime our horses are a little bit fuzzier and they are drier, so I'm not talking about that type of symptom. I'm looking for an immediate change from what's normal day to day for your horse for that time of year. Another check I'm going to do is take my hand and cup it and run down the crest along the mane where it meets the neck. I am feeling for rigidity in the muscles. I'm feeling for tightness. I'm also feeling for elasticity in the skin. I want that skin to feel pliable underneath my thumb. I'm also going to shake it side to side lightly. And again, feeling for any tension or looseness or rigidity. If we are feeling tension, tightness, almost like a paper sensation of the skin, we might be looking at some dehydration symptoms in the early phases. The absolute go-to easiest way to check at home for dehydration or beginning or advanced stages is the pinch test. I'm going to take my index finger and thumb. I'm going to find the jugular groove, which is the groove in the neck that's most easily palpable, and you can see it. I'm going to come down to the bottom where the skin is a little bit looser, and I'm going to pinch. I want that pinch or that fold of skin to immediately bounce back to its original state, right back to the body within 1 second. That means hydration levels are at their optimal. If it takes anywhere from 2 to 3 seconds, we know that they could use a little bit of hydration. And if that skin does what's called tenting, where we pinch the skin and it maintains that pinch, that tent, like a pitch tent, that would mean you're in actual full-blown dehydration, and that's an absolute, you must call your vet right away and discuss what you need to do next. So if we get just a 2 to 3 second delay, let's get some fluids in them. I would still call my vet, just as an FYI, and let them know that we're on our way there. But if it's tented, we want to definitely call our vet immediately. So how do we encourage water intake at home? It's a little bit tricky in the winter months. Primarily, if you are finding that your horse is looking like they're a little dehydrated or heading that direction in that pinch test and visual tests, my first thing that I do is called a salt slurry. I'm going to take a 60 cc syringe. I'm going to put 2 to 3 tablespoons of white salt inside. I'm going to add or fill the rest of it with warm water, shake it up so the salt absorbs, and I'm going to syringe it directly into my horse's mouth, trying to get them to swallow as much as possible. One thing that does is add salt to the system immediately, but it also encourages them to start drinking. So have fresh water or water readily available right there for them to start drinking right away. Another thing I like to do is feed electrolytes. You can buy these at any of your feed stores. You can get them from your vet as well. They come in a paste form, a gel form, and a syringe, which you can do directly into their mouth, or they come in a powder form that you can feed through. It's really just a matter of what works for you and your horse, what they're most likely to eat. Electrolytes are great because not only do they have salt in them, but they also have calcium, potassium, and magnesium, which are all essential for proper muscle functioning. So if your horse is acting uncoordinated in their gait, they're to that level, adding those electrolytes to them is not only going to help that, but it's also going to encourage them to drink. Very vital nutrients, and it encourages them to drink more water. The third thing I do, and I do this pretty much year-round, is I feed a mash. Whatever forage my horse is eating, whether it's alfalfa, timothy hay, grass hay, whatever, I'm going to find a pellet in the same form. I'm going to take that pellet, I'm going to soak it. I'm going to take about 1 cup of pellet, dry pellet, put it in a feed pan, and add 4 cups of hot water. I'm going to let it soak, usually in the house during this time of year, until all those pellets puff up and dissolve into that water. It will almost create a soupy, milkshakey type of consistency. That's something that they can not only drink but also eat up. And why I do that, especially when my horse is dehydrated, is that I can guarantee that they're getting 4 cups of water right there. Now, why do I feed that during the rest of the year here and there? Because that's a great way to get any other supplements or medications in, specifically electrolytes if I'm doing a feed through. And it's something they're familiar with. I can top dress it with molasses or with honey. I tend to go with honey because it's such a natural remedy for so many aches and pains and illnesses. But I also add barley as well. You can add oats, anything to make it more palatable. But it's a great way to get hydration in them right away, and something that they're not sipping and actually having to drink. They think it's a treat. Another tip is to keep your water, if you have a horse that needs to be drinking and they're a little reluctant and you've got them in an area where you can directly monitor, like in a 30-gallon heated tub like I've got with Sage right now. I want to keep that water between 35 and 45 degrees to be most appealing to her. How do I do that when it's ice cold outside? Obviously it stays melted, but it's still pretty cold. So I am adding about 5 gallons of piping hot water from my house every 4 hours to warm up that water a little bit. Just seems to make it a little more palatable for our horses. And they prefer between 35 and 45 degree temperature anyways. Horses can definitely get hydrated from eating the snow out in their pastures. However, if you've got a horse that's compromised, they're going to have to work even harder to cool or warm that snow up and into a liquid form to absorb it. So remember, it's just like eating ice cream. It's going in cold. Your body has to work to warm it up to get it to body temperature. Horses are the same way with snow. In a healthy, active horse, 0 problem. I still prefer to have water available to them and not rely on the snow, simply because dehydration can happen so fast. And once you're there, it's hard to get back out of it, especially in the winter months. It's really hard to get them to be excited about drinking when they're not hot, when they're not sweaty, when they're not exerting themselves. So thanks so much for watching our clips. Check back every week. We'll have another tip for you. We'll try as often as we can. If you have suggestions or questions on some different topics to cover, please let me know. Sage and I are happy to help you, and we've got a whole herd that can help as well. Thanks so much, and happy horses, and keep them all healthy.